What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is July 23rd, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil. Episode 372. Phil, it's been a week. It's been a week without talking. We got some big news. Bills action is back. If you're watching on YouTube, kind of gave you a teaser because Phil's wearing the Bills shirt. But we'll be talking some training camp because training camp opens as you're listening to this episode. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, we'll be going over the top things or thing, depending on how serious you are about training camp, what we're going to be looking at leading up to the regular season. Then we'll be talking NLL and Bandits adjacent about, because I don't know if everybody knows, but I don't know if the NLL knows, they're still scheduled to be opening free agency on August 1st. As far as everybody's been told, no CBA, no news on Rochester, but they are releasing trading cards, so whoop-de-doo for that. But yeah, we'll be talking about transition and defending players, or defenders, that's the better way to use it. Where we think they're going to go, some of the bigger names. We're not going to be talking about the Bandits because we went over that in the last show, but we're going to try to assign some of the bigger name UFAs, unrestricted. I said that right? Yeah, I did it right this year. Unrestricted free agents. I did it wrong last year. About where we think they're going to land. But as a reminder, only 18 players who were UFAs total last year changed teams, so if we have them on the same team, don't freak out because that's the way the NLL shakes out. But we're going to assume Rochester's still in the league. But Phil, as we normally kick off these shows in the summers now, what did you do in your last week to let everybody know? Because they've been waiting on pins and needles for both of our weeks.
Yeah, it was the wife's birthday this past weekend. So happy birthday to my wife.
Happy birthday.
So we did some wife things. It was a weekend dedicated to her, whether it was relaxing or gifts or whatever. But we ended up doing the Martin House in Buffalo on Sunday, pretty much across from Buffalo Zoo. That really fancy big house with the garden and the old architecture and stuff. It was really cool. We did a little architecture tour of a lot of the building and whatnot, and it was really interesting to see a lot of the design that went into it. He's a very famous archaeologist. Oh my god. What is, not archaeologist, that's wrong.
Architect?
Yeah, I guess. I was thinking architecture is, but yeah, architect. So he's pretty big in general across like the world, but he's got a few houses, and one of the big ones is in Buffalo. So we went and did that. Went shopping. We went to the two malls actually this weekend, which is pretty big because pretty much never go to the mall. But went to the Galleria Mall one time. Went to the Lego store, that was a good time, and then went to the Outlet Mall out by where you used to live. Got a new hat that I'm wearing currently, but she got some stuff, and we just kind of walked around the malls and whatnot. So mainly a birthday weekend for the wife.
Sounds very fun. We're recording this around 20 to 8 on Tuesday. Like 3 hours ago, I got back from Albany. I did the Albany trip and back in one day again. Long day. But got my equipment. Literally, if you listen to the June show, I'm literally there for 5 minutes. This time, it was more like 7 minutes to pick up the equipment, pack up the truck, and head back. But long day. And
why can't they mail it or anything?
It's very heavy. It's like 500 pounds of weight. Yeah, it's probably also cheaper just to do this. But
yeah,
whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a little bit of a hike. But whatever. Got some comp time. So I'm a little tired. Finished the stair runner. That's officially done. Brooke did some molding up the stairs to make it look more decorative. So when our tenant, my brother, comes home from his overseas trip, it's going to look completely different as he goes up to his bedroom, office, bathroom, closet / apartment area all the way upstairs. But looks really nice. She's going to paint it and finish it up. He comes back Sunday, so he's still got a little bit of time. I filmed the guillotine draft video every year.
It's very good. Very good.
If nobody ever knows what a guillotine draft is, it's fantasy football.
It's the worst.
And you kind of draft it like a normal league, but each week the lowest scoring team gets eliminated and their players go into free agency. And then the remaining teams that are still alive get to bid their free agency budget on the players that got dropped from the cut team, and then that cut team is just dead. See you later, guillotine. But yeah, every year I've been doing a different video.
And no trades. Other way to pick up players other than once a week free agents, and it's only once a week. You can't pick them up any other time. You get one shot at at waivers. If you miss it, you're screwed. And a lot of teams usually miss it, and they end up without a QB for the entire week or a tight end for the entire week because theirs got injured and they don't really pay attention. It's a good time.
Yeah, some leagues allow trading. Some leagues have more than one day to pick up. I run it where it's no trades in just one day, and that means you actually have to remember which day and be a little active. And I think it's less than 48 hours you get the chance to put in your bids based on, because there's Thursday night football and there's Monday night football, so the gap between those times is very slim. But anyways, I always do a draft order reveal video, and this year, since I'm in the new house, I did Cribs. The old MTV show Cribs. Filmed that one. People that watched to the very end, my wife, who was filming for me, fell up the stairs and caught that on video. So I added that to the very end if everybody watched all the way. But I think I'm drafting 11th. I think you're earlier than me. You're like 5
I'm
or
fifth,
something.
yeah.
Fifth, yeah. So we're a little bit separated this year. Maybe we'll be able to talk some strategy a bit. But got that one out. That one was fun. And then had a disc golf tournament with our friend Mikey P. Finished top 10. I will not tell you how many teams were involved. There was 13 teams. We finished, I think it was 2 under, which wasn't bad. I think the leader finished 11 or 12 under. And then money, you had to be in the top 3. And I think top 3 were 8 under. We were in the position. We were looking really good. We just weren't hitting our putts. I think we had 11 or 12 opportunities for birdies. They weren't easy, chippy birdies, but they were birdie territory.
They were within striking distance.
We just missed it. But yeah, we're warming up for our Vermont trip, which I haven't really talked about. We'll talk about that in the next show. But yeah, that was my week. Not a ton, but it was a eventful week. Fun stuff. Got a lot of stuff done. So on and so forth. But what is busy are the Buffalo Bills. They're back in training camp. I think they're only like one of 6 teams that actually go away for training camp now. It's completely reversed than what it used to be. It used to be like 26 teams used to go away for camp. Now it's only 6, and I think maybe it's even 4. It's 6 or 4. But they're one of the few that are going away. They're at St. John Fisher for like the 12th straight year. Whatever. Good for them. Don't really care about all that stuff. But what we do care about is, since the Bills training camp is back, the Bills are going to be more of a mainstay on the show. Once again, we're a Bandits-centered show if you're just starting to listen to us. So every single episode is going to have Bandits-related stuff or NLL-related content. And then we're toss in the Bills and the Sabres as we see fit. And the Bills are back in training camp. So the question is, Phil, what are some top things or thing, if there's only one, that you're going to be tracking leading up to the start of the season? Because once again, training camp is kicking off if you're listening to this on Wednesday. If you're listening to this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday or Tuesday, or Wednesday next week, it's been going on. So, Phil, what are you watching for as training camp opens and we lead up to I'm messing up. I'm going to let you take it. Preseason and the regular season. Take it away, Phil. I'm going to drink some Arizona here.
Yeah. I'm just going to fly through these. I have a few. Kincaid and Coleman not only taking their actual steps forward, but how are they going to look now that they're supposedly healthy? Apparently injuries was one of the big reasons that they were both kind of held back last season a little bit. So now that they are healthy and full go, can they both take that step forward? I know Kincaid is in year 3, but he is definitely looking for a step forward. Davis versus Cook. We'll see if Cook even holds out for training camp. But even if he's there, how much will Davis...
He is there, but will he practice? Is he going to hold in?
And how much will Davis eat into his workload? How much can Davis kind of put his own name out there in training camp if, like you just said, he's a hold in where he's there but not willing to participate? Defensive line improvements in general. We've been seeing this through Bean's tenure for years and years and years. Every single year they try to improve it, and every year it kind of is a little bit better or the same. It looks like they tried to do it again through draft picks and off-season acquisition, so we'll see if they actually can improve the defensive line and what it looks like. The secondary of the defense, also safeties, cornerbacks, a little bit weak. We'll see what they can do. Are Palmer and Moore anything other than flyers? Are they actually something interesting for this team, or are they just kind of throw in camp battles and we'll see what happens? Milano, now that he's finally healthy for a training camp, what does he actually look like healthy into a training camp? Does he look like old Milano that had some juice, or does he look like he's starting to age out, and like what can he still bring to the Bills? Then finally, I know you have this on your list, so I'll keep it short, but for me, for rookie first round Hairston, it's not necessarily, it is about the battle and everything, but I think he has a massive spotlight on him because of Kaiir Elam. Like, we've already gone through this as a first round cornerback, and one was supposed to be really good and had just a monstrous bust. So I think whether, like, what he's going to do his rookie season is, you know, to be seen, but I think he's got just a huge spotlight on him because of the bad taste of Elam recently. I feel like he's like, there's just so much pressure on him not to be another Elam, and if he is, they're in trouble.
Yeah, my number one battle was the punting competition, and that's over now. Joke. Robbins, I believe, is the one on the team, if I remember correctly. That's how much I care. But yeah, the CB2 battle, I think, honestly, I think going into it, and people listening probably would know already, I mean, depending on when you're listening to this, Trey White is probably going to get the first team snaps to start camp. I think that's what Sean McDermott typically does, is he sticks with the veterans and then the rookies get mixed in there and you got to win the position. I would not be shocked if Tre'Davious White goes into week 1 as the starter and they slow roll Hairston. Even if Hairston looks like the better player, I feel like they trust Tre'Davious White more right now because they know who he is. So going into that, I honestly don't think it's a bad thing if Hairston does not start, but right, he's mixed in depth role, and then you see weeks 16, 17, 18, and into the playoffs, Hairston kind of takes over because his potential is higher than White. But I will slightly disagree. I don't think it's as big of a spotlight because of Kaiir Elam. I think with them nailing the Christian Benford deal or pick and then getting that deal done and him being your CB1, because Elam was coming in and kind of be that guy behind Tre'Davious White or trying to take over, being that we need you type of role. I don't think Hairston is in that type of role where we need you right now, because they have even Dorian Strong, who I think is a 6th round pick that they're high on. They got Dane Jackson in camp. They got Jamarcus Ingram, Tre'Davious White coming in, and then obviously they have Benford on the other side. So it's not that the pressure's on him. It will be interesting how quickly they are either forcing him or need him to step up into that. Wide receiver battle, to me, it's between Samuel and Moore. Do we get the Curtis Samuel from the beginning of the season when he was hurt, or was the tail end of the season and into the playoffs the true Curtis Samuel? Because if that's the Curtis Samuel we're going to get, I think he beats out Elijah Moore for snaps and on the field time. But Elijah Moore, you know, he came in with high draft pedigree. He's had bad quarterback play in the beginning. This is going to be his best quarterback he's ever had. How does that mix in? How does Tyler Bass look? I mean, if Sam Martin's not there anymore as his holder, he's been shaky in the past. How does his kicking look? If he's missing a ton in camp, do they bring in more competition like they did last year, and then he kind of took over and was like, okay, we're good? Health of Joey Bosa doesn't seem like he's going to be put on the PUP or non-NFL contact or whatever the heck it is with Dawson Knox. But it seems like it was just Spencer Brown and Van Pran that got put on it Tuesday. So it seems like Bosa's going to be there. I think they're going to slow roll him nonstop. But that defensive line, which is going to be another transition here, is defensive tackle behind Jones and Oliver. I really think, and let me pull up the numbers right now. I got the numbers. Now I just got to find the player. Where is he? Daquan Jones right now. The Bills would save about $1.8 million if they cut Jones. I don't expect them to do it, but he could be on the bubble based on his play last year. And if some of these younger players, Dwayne Carter, if you get the, I know Odin Joby's 6 games suspended, so not really him, but TJ Edwards, Dwayne Walker, you know, some of these other younger players that you really want to step up in that position, if they're able to step up and push him out, does he become a bubble candidate based on his play last year? Because I wasn't really all that impressed with his play last year. It looked like he had lost a step, and he is one of the veteran pieces there. And it will be interesting if he does take a step back, which rookie or which younger player steps up.
Did you say Sanders?
Sanders, yes. Yep. Yeah, he just signed.
Yeah.
But it because Oliver seems to need that bigger body that can take up two offensive linemen in front of him. And the last one is the safety battle. I really think Hamlin is probably going to get the first team snaps. I think Bishop's going to be right behind him, but his health, it's going to be a big question. Then Forrest, I think it's going to be a 3-man rotation. And then by the first or second preseason game, I think you'll see a more established player there. Is it going to be Bishop? Are they going to go back to Hamlin, which I really don't think they should. I think he needs to be a depth player. Or Forrest could come out and surprise. I think Taylor Rapp is secured over there, but it's going to be, okay, it's to me, it's a 3-man race back there to who wins that other safety's position.
I can't believe Elijah Moore is only 25.
Still. Yeah, it's insane.
It seems like him and then Kyle Pitts is the other one who seems like he's been in the NFL for about a decade. I think
Kyle Pitts is younger. I think he's
Kyle
like
Pitts
24.
is 24, yeah. And it seems
insane.
like he's been in there for about a decade already. But Elijah Moore is the same way. I feel like he's been in the NFL for a really, really long time. Only 25, Curtis Samuel 28. So I wonder if they have very similar skill sets throughout training camp. If they show that they're at a similar level, I wonder if they'll lean youth for just more of a future player, but we will have to see how it shakes up.
Yeah, Moore's got that speed. I think Curtis Samuel's got more of that gadget play. So
yep.
They're a bit different players, but what Moore does have is the speed that isn't really on this team. So it will be interesting to see how that shakes out. But I really think the majority of the season, as long as health is there, I'm not sure you're going to see both of those guys in the lineup every single week. I think it might be, unless one of them steps up, or somebody else falters.
Could
one
be game
be
script dependent or game team dependent, who they're playing. Opponent, that's the word I was looking for.
Agreed. But from now on, we'll try to squeeze the Bills in there a question or two as we lead up to preseason and regular season. And
coming back.
Red helmets finally is, although one person was on X on Monday and saying, hey, it's not happening. And then a day later, it's happening. But yeah, we'll move on. Bandits / NLL Free Agency is still scheduled for August 1st. But with Rochester and CBA, who knows? Personally, I am going on recent history. I would be completely floored and shocked if free agency opens on August 1st. I personally think that by the 28th, 29th, 30th, sometime next week, you're going to see them delay it 2 weeks. That would be my best guess because we have heard nothing. I mean, Adam Levy said that there's still a handful of people, maybe down to one potential ownerships for Rochester. He's heard nothing about the CBA. I don't know how you can open free agency with a team in flux and the CBA not locked up. No player is going to sign unless you're playing for Halifax. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But right now, I mean, neither of them should really affect UFAs this season. Unless, Rochester shakes out and we'll have a dispersal draft and stuff like that. But the CBA really shouldn't affect who the current UFAs are. There might just be more players added to UFAs and free agency. So I don't believe any of the ones that are currently UFAs are going to become RFAs or any of that kind of stuff. So just a little bit there. Last year, we went through all the UFAs. But this year, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be going through the UFAs. We kind of already did it with the report cards. But we're going to go more in depth, just UFAs for the next 2 weeks. And we're going to pick and kind of decide and talk through where we think, Phil and I, they're going to sign. And this might be a little bit more boring because, 18 players, like I mentioned off the start, signed elsewhere last year. But in my opinion, this year's is a little bit deeper and a little bit more interesting with the CBA and maybe another team folding or dispersal draft or relocation or whatever it might be. But we're going to go under the assumption right now that Rochester is still a part of the league because as we're recording right now, Rochester is still the 14th team. We're going to go on there under the assumption that all of these UFAs are the UFAs moving forward and there's not going to be anybody added to it because that's the information we have right now. This week, we're going to do defensive and transition players. Next week, we will tackle forwards and goaltenders because the forwards are so deep in depth and glorious. We're going to pair them with the goalies because goalies are less. So we'll do the defense and transition together. So we'll roll with transition to start. Some bigger names out there. Zach Currier, Jordan McIntosh, Shane Simpson. We kind of touched a bit on a few of these players during the report cards. If you didn't listen to any of those shows, the previous 5, we went over all those, went 14-1. But we're going to go through some names here. We're just going to run through them. If you want to talk a little bit more in depth with any of these guys, we'll kind of talk about it. But the first name, number 1, I think probably the most coveted name in the UFA department right now, besides Christian Del Bianco, who's now leaving Vancouver, is Zach Currier. I have him sticking with the Seals. I believe you also have him sticking with the Seals. Seals still have that franchise tag. So even if, again, we're under the current CBA, that might change. But under this current CBA, I cannot see San Diego not franchising him if they can't lock him up to a long-term deal, especially with all the pieces they moved out for him last offseason. I think Currier is a Seal to stay at least next year.
Yeah, and with how well he did there and how well the team did, I just
not
don't see him.
Not an MVP candidate, though.
Right, somehow. I just don't see him wanting to go anywhere else either, and whether it's franchise tag or else, or just a normal contract. I just don't see him wanting to leave that situation. I mean, I think when a team does what they did to bring him in, it shows how much you're wanted and coveted by that team already. So I think that alone, and then them giving him the different opportunities he had last season, whether it be on forward, defense, transition, whatever he was doing, he was incredible. I don't think that team wants to lose him, but I also don't think he has much interest in leaving the Seals at this point.
So next name is Jordan McIntosh, the captain of the Georgia Swarm. We had him on our report cards of if he does reach UFA status and free agency, Buffalo should take a peek at him. But I can't see the captain of the Georgia Swarm, who just made playoffs back-to-back years, who have a ton of draft picks and young players in. I think this is a marriage that they want to continue. I cannot see a divorce in the future here.
Yeah, no, I have the exact same thing. I think he might be a lifer for the Swarm. And also, I mean, their team they're good-ish. I don't know. I still don't know what to think of their team.
They need to figure out who they are.
Yeah, but if they ever do that, they have a decent amount of pieces to make a good playoff run. So it's just not a situation you really want to leave, especially when you're already the captain and you're part of this team. So I don't think he has any interest in going elsewhere unless someone really threw some extra money at him.
So the next name on this board is Brandon Goodwin. He played with Las Vegas last year, right? Yes, Las Vegas. Thank you. I don't know why I didn't have their former teams here. I kind of think I just assumed I knew what they were. But this is the first one that I think has a chance to move elsewhere. And I think he is destined for Calgary. And I know Calgary's, we'll kind of talk about it next week and a little bit moving forward here, but they have a ton of UFAs. They have a ton of UFAs that currently under the CBA cannot be franchised. I think this could be a player. Calgary's going to have to sign players. Like, there's going to be money on the books that they're going to have to bring players in because their defense was already struggling a bit. We saw what he did with Vegas last year. I think Roughnecks are a very good place for him, and I think he could thrive in that system and fit a very important role that I don't think they have currently.
Yeah, I really wanted to try to fit him on the Warriors, which is who he used to play for. He did play for the Roughnecks in 2016, so he does have that history there as far as, again, we talk a lot about relocation for these players. He does have that in him, so he has played for them before. Vancouver also kind of over there. But there was no room on Vancouver for a player. Even though he is really, really good, I just don't see any room to squeeze him onto that team. So I think, like you mentioned, Calgary is a team that is in need of players like this, and I think that is an area where his skill set will shine on a team that, in theory, should. It depends really on their offense. We'll get into that next episode, but they could be, once again, a surprise team, or they could be at the bottom. But he is a player that I think would fit really well on that team.
So the next name, Jordan Gillis. He's a lifer with Colorado. He's finally UFA status here, but I don't see him leaving either with Colorado having a ton of UFAs on the back end. I think his role fits perfectly in what they do there, and I just do not see him fitting elsewhere. Again, Vancouver is going to be very active, but I think they're going to be very active re-signing their own players, which we'll get to in a little bit here, but very active in the forward group. He would have been a guy that I would have thought, okay, maybe a Vancouver, maybe a Saskatchewan type, but I think Colorado wants him back, and I think he ends up back in Colorado.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he's kind of a lifer there, and he fits that scene really, really well. So I think he's just going to kind of find his way right back there. Sadly, like we've already mentioned, a lot of these lists are just going right back to where they were.
So the next name, Tony Malcolm. This is another player that we have going to a different team, but we have him going to different teams. This is the first one here. Former Philadelphia wing from last year. I have him going to the Desert Dogs. And again, it's not because I think he is not very good. I think he's going to be coveted on the market. But again, I think Desert Dogs are in a position. They just switched over their entire coordinator staff. They have a new OC, new DC, new goaltender coach. The only one sticking around is Sean Williams in the GM and head coach position. I think he is a coach that players want to play for. He is a very strong player coach. I think Tony Malcolm fits in a role there that I think he could help push this team to a direction that they haven't been in yet. I think he would thrive with Las Vegas and be one of the bigger names out there.
Yeah, I have a, not system, a thought, I guess, where I took a lot of these different players and moved them around to other teams. It's basically teams that I think have a good offense, could use veteran defenders on their team to boost them closer to a playoff or championship position. And for me, that is a team like Albany. He has played for Albany before in 2022. So once again, kind of could go back to a former situation. But I think this is a type of player that Albany could use. It's just a veteran transition player. It's something that I think Albany's lacking a little bit on their defense, and just in general, I don't think they have the best transition game. And he doesn't necessarily bring a ton of points, but I think he does bring that veteran quality to him. And I do think he's a solid defender that has some transition to his game. And again, I just think it's something that Albany could use to push themselves forward in their hunt for a championship.
I do like it. I do like that position. But we've went over 5. We got 6 more left. We got Shane Simpson on the docket, but we're going to dive into our first and only sponsor of this show, Tap That Tap Room at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. It's Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer a variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
Tap That Tap Room is coming at you with all of the typical weekly events, starting with trivia with Geeks Who Drink on Wednesday. Thank You Thursday is on Thursday. Happy Hour Friday with DJ Nightlight taking the night away. And then on Saturday, they have live music with Jim Ronan. But something we have not done in quite a long time, PK, is let our listeners know about a featured menu item. So I decided to go with the loaded nachos with chicken, which has queso, melted shredded cheese, black beans, onions, jalapenos, tomatoes, sour cream, all topped with delicious shredded grilled chicken. Pair that with any of the 30 rotating taps, especially during a happy hour on Friday, and you have yourself a pretty great time. To find out what other events they have coming up, check out their Facebook page, and to see more of their menu, head to tapthattaproom.com.
They have something
for everyone.
Love it.
Just like these free agents.
Next one is Shane Simpson. As you were reading that, I kind of went back and looked, and I'm kind of kicking myself for deciding to go with the team I did. But he was in Calgary. They traded him to Las Vegas in the offseason. Then Vegas traded him to Philly mid-season this past season. He is eligible to be franchise tagged. I would not be shocked if Philly does put that franchise tag on him, because they are hurting. If Mitch Jones, it could come down. Although I believe you not need to put the franchise tag on him before free agency opens, so we might not even find out before the next show, depending on free agency opening and everything like that. But I would not be shocked if Philly does put the franchise tag on Shane Simpson, because they need some type of talent out there. But if they do not do that and they decide to go in a different route, I think he fits perfectly with Toronto. And that's because I think Toronto is going to get a lot of the players that they traded away back Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. We're going to be talking about one of them in a bit. I think we're going to talk about him next week in goaltender department. But they have the first 3 picks in this upcoming draft. Do they keep them all? Do they use them all? Who knows? Sam English is coming back. If you listen to the report card show from, I think, 5 weeks ago at this point, they have a ton of talent. They were very hurt last year. Mark Matthews, Tom Schreiber should be both back. You saw what Josh Dowick did. You saw what Chris Bushi did. Yes, they both need deals, but they are RFAs. I think he fits perfectly in a Rock system that I think is going to be one of the quickest rebuilds, and I think they're going to be a threat in the playoffs next year. And if you can add a Shane Simpson who can be a part of the transition game out there, where you do not have to rely on him to be a true lockdown defender, which he has needed to be with Philly and Vegas, which I do not think he thrives in. If you're allowed to send him out there and just have him cheat a bit and have whoever their goaltender is, it might be Pose, but I think he could thrive with the Toronto Rock in the transition game. I would be terrified of that.
Yeah, I had him going farther west, similar to other things I've said, but mainly this one to me is about Shane Simpson joining his buddy Zach Currier out in Seals land. I think he's another player. I know we keep talking about the Seals probably having too much veteran talent at times, but he's another player that I think he could just go meet up with his buddy Zach and have a great time out west. He is from Hamilton, though, so I could easily see him going to Toronto because of that, be a little bit closer to home after this, next potential free agency. So I do like what you said, and because he's from Hamilton, I know neither of us picked this, but do you think there's any shot, or do you think, I'm not going to say realistically, but do you think he would fit the Bandits well? Because he's a transition player with a lot of good defensive qualities to him, and that's something that we often are looking for the Bandits. Do you think if he was available and wanted to come closer to home for some reason, couldn't go to the Rock, he's a player that the Bandits, I'm not going to say that they're going to sign him, but is he a player that would fit or that they would look into in that situation?
Fit, yes. We've been clamoring for a true transition player besides Ian McKay, because if Ian McKay went down, you didn't really have a backup. We saw last year, but they didn't really need it because Ian McKay scored, 34, 37 goals up at the forward department. But, I mean, I would absolutely love to see him take the passes from Matt Vince, or hopefully no one else, running up in the transition game. But I just do not think that's the type of game Buffalo wants.
That's fair.
So I don't, as much as I would love it, I don't see Buffalo being interested or being involved in those conversations. I think he's going to be a very hot commodity if he does reach free agency, which the more I'm finding out, the more reading, I'm highly doubting it. I think I'm going to get this one wrong. But we'll move on. Dalton Young, very young, 24 years old, but was on the practice squad, 5th Philly. I just think he goes right back to Philly. Only played in 3 games in his career, but 9 points. 2-7. He got a little bit of forward up there as well. Again, Philly's going to need a lot of players if Mitch Jones and all the other many players they have on free agency leave. So I think Dalton Young goes back and can carve out a bigger role this coming season for them.
Yeah, that's kind of what I had with him as well. I think because he is young and he is talented, the Wings need to do whatever they can to hold on to players like that. I don't think he is one that they can really be willing to lose to free agency, so I do think the Wings will do what they need to do to get him to come right back to their team.
So a name that was a hot commodity last year and is going to be a hot commodity this year in free agency, even though I think he took a bit of a step back after leaving Colorado, is Joey Capito. Played for the Georgia Swarm last year. I have him switching it up. I have him coming more north. I have him going to Albany for the same reasons that you had Tony Malcolm going to Albany. I think Albany needs a bit more veteran pieces, and you saw what their defense was when they got so beat up and so hurt back there, and they didn't have John Wagner in the lineup, and they didn't have Nishimura and Chakowski got hurt and Watkinson got hurt. They need more veteran pieces back there. Joey Capito has a winning pedigree. He knows how to win a championship. I think that him going up north to Albany more solidifies more veteran presence on the back end. That helps the youth more back there. That can help a Will Johansson a bit more in the transition game. I think he fits perfectly with Albany.
Yeah, I have him staying with Georgia for all the reasons you just mentioned. I think that they also need the defensive help, and I think that he's the kind of player, again, you don't want to lose. Like, the same reason you have him going to Albany is the same reason I think Georgia's going to do what they need to do to get him to stay, because they're a team that, again, kind of on that bubble. We'll see where they end up, but they're a team that needs to keep these kind of veteran defenders. Their offense and their team should, in theory, be pushing for a title. I don't know if they ever truly will, but if they figure it out, he's the kind of player that you want on a team pushing for a title. Again, same reason you want him to go to Albany is the same reason I have him kind of staying with the Swarm, because I think they need players like that on Georgia to make the same push that Albany's trying to make as well.
So the next name is Jeremy Thompson. I have him going back to the Swarm. Lyle plays there. Miles Thompson plays there, although he's a UFA. We'll talk about him next week. But I can't see him going anywhere else but Georgia. They need a face-off man. He is their face-off man. Whether he has lost a step or not, I think, to me, this will be a common theme this show and next show. I think Georgia's going to just try to re-sign everybody and try to go again. That's just me. That's the way they seem to run the 4 years we've been covering this league, going into year 5. So I have him playing with Georgia or hanging him up.
Yeah, I don't see him, unless Lyle magically goes somewhere else, which I also don't see, but we'll talk about that next week. I have him staying right there as well.
Lyle's also signed, so
Yes.
unless they trade him, he's not going anywhere. We saw that common theme. Multiple people commented, "Oh, I've seen Lyle as a UFA. He's not a UFA. He's got one more year under the contract. He's going to get traded," and I doubt that. Brad Gillies, Rochester, like we said, Rochester, we're going under the assumption there's still going to be an organization, whether that's in Rochester or elsewhere. We've heard nothing else, even though I highly doubt that they're going to be around, even though I hate saying that. I think if Rochester is still around, he's going to re-sign with the Nighthawks.
Yeah, I think he fits there really well. And again, it's another type of player that I think Rochester likes, Rochester needs, and I think that he is absolutely going to stay there. I think he likes being in Rochester. I think he likes that team. So I don't see him going anywhere.
So the next name and the last name for the transition players is Chris Corbeil, former Bandit, Toronto Rock player last year. They traded him at the deadline, which Mitch Desnew, to Philly. I have him re-signing in Philly. This is one of the few Toronto players that I do not have going back to Toronto, and I think that is due to the roster construction that they got going on up there. I just do not see where he fits with Toronto based on the numbers that I have going to Toronto. So I have him sticking with the Philadelphia Wings for another reason why I've talked about Dalton Young and I think I had another guy going to the Wings. Oh, that's later on in the show. But they just need players. I think he would have a big role with Philly, and where he is in his career, you're probably chasing a title. But I don't know if there's going to be other title contending teams that are able to get his services. And I think he sticks with the Wings.
Yeah, I think kind of what we said, like if as long as he wants to come back for another season, I think he's kind of stuck with the team that is going to take him. Not that it's really a shot at him per se. I mean, the Wings did what they did to go out and get him for reinforcements for a playoff push for a reason. He is still a valuable veteran player, but like you said, I think the roster construction for a lot of the teams that are title worthy or title ready are not necessarily looking for a Chris Corbeil until possibly closer to the trade deadline. Again, you might see his name if it's a 1-year deal with the Wings and they're not in playoff contention. You might see him once again pushed at the deadline to a title contending team due to injuries down the line or a team just looking for that extra veteran player. But for now, like you said, the Wings need bodies, and I think he'll go right back there.
So that concludes the transition players. There's 11 bigger names. There's a couple more that we did not assign names to. Those would be, hang on, sorry, pulling it up now. You got a Jesse Gamble, who's San Diego Seals. If he decides to come back, he's 37. He'll probably sign back with San Diego. Ethan O'Connor, he's played for multiple teams last year, 33. You got Dalton Salver, who left Buffalo, signed with Colorado, played in a couple games. I think it was 3 last year. Tyler Carpenter, Brandon Slade, Raposo. So there's a couple more names, but they're lower level, quieter names out there that would be interesting to see. They would be later in free agency type of deals, in my opinion, that would be more depth or, 19th, 21st player on the roster. So that's why we didn't really go over those ones. But we'll move on to the defenders now. It's a big crop. There's a lot of names here. The big names at the top are Mitch DeSnew, Robert Hope, Brad Cree, Ryan Dilks. There's a multiple other big name players that are scheduled to be UFAs when free agency is scheduled. Once again, opening August 1st, but again, we highly doubt here. We're going to go over, because we got 5 players switching up teams, and all 5 players are the same players that we had switching up teams. So let's run through the players that we have going back to their original teams first and say those 5 for the end, so people have to continue to listen to find out who those 5 players are and where we have them going to. But the number one name is Robert Hope. And we joked about it, I think it was 2 seasons ago, and we got ripped for it. And we're like, we were kidding. If you listen to the show, we were kidding. Robert Hope, captain of Colorado, he's not going anywhere. As long as Mammoth want him back, and I don't know why Mammoth would not want him back, Robert Hope is going to be a lifer out in Colorado. He is not going anywhere.
Captain Colorado has a fun ring
That's
to
fun.
it.
I bet. I don't follow Colorado Mammoth exclusively. I just pretend to be a Colorado Mammoth fan exclusively, especially last season. But if they do not call him Captain Colorado, you have to patent that, TM that, and send it to Colorado and say, hey, if you want to use this nickname, you got to pay me.
I like it. It's a great nickname, and he deserves it because he's really, really good, and he is going nowhere.
Yeah. Next name, Ryan Dilks. We also have him going nowhere. He's going back to Vancouver. Loves it there. I really am... Now that they have Kurt Malowski, and I don't think we talked about that enough last offseason with him going to Vancouver, Vancouver is going to be, to me, the equivalent of Buffalo on the West Coast. That players want to go to play to Vancouver because I think they do it right. I think they're building it right. And now that they have Christian Del Bianco, now that they have Kurt Malowski, the faces of the franchise, I think they're building it right. They built it right from the goaltender. Well, really, they built it from the defenders to the goaltender. Now going to be working on the forwards that we'll talk about next week. But I think Ryan Dilks is perfect fit for that Vancouver defense that I absolutely think, to me, is the best defense group in the entire league. They were last year. I think they're going to be that going into the 2025-26 season. But Dilks isn't going anywhere. He's going to be with Vancouver until he decides to retire.
Yeah, Vancouver took what was really working in Calgary and stole it, and now they have a really good team. Amazing how that works. But Dilks, one of the best defenders in the entire league. Like you said, I do think Vancouver is now a destination to play at, and he has no reason to leave.
Next name, David Brock. If he does not decide to retire for a second time in like 3 years, I have him going back to Las Vegas. I think they value his presence out there as a vocal leader in the locker room. And I think he actually had a very good season last year on a very bad Las Vegas Desert Dogs team. And with new voices in the locker room, new voices behind the bench, I think bringing back a David Brock to help bring in this next wave of players, at least for one more year, would be a good decision by Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think he's going to become, or already is, one of those player coaches where he's, pretty much, again, a Dan Dawson, where he settles the young team down and is able to, take a young team to the next level. They can lean on him for his knowledge and just how long he's been in the NLL. So like you said, I think they value the veteran aspect of what he brings. And like you said, he had a pretty solid season. I don't like to admit it. I'm not his biggest fan right now, but he had a good season for them last year on a struggling team. So it would be wise for them to bring him back.
So the next name, as I kind of organized this a little bit more because I changed on the fly exactly how we were doing this, fixing it now. Tim Edwards. This one hurts because I have wanted him for multiple off seasons, but I don't see Buffalo doing it. I don't see Tim Edwards doing it, and I see him going back to Colorado. They need a face-off man. He's their face-off man. Even though he's the dream face-off man I would have for Buffalo to come in, I have him back in Colorado.
Yeah, he's been in Colorado for his whole career, other than when he was in Buffalo in
That's what I said last offseason. That's why I wanted him to trade for him.
Yeah, Edwards will come home, and he's going to Buffalo. No, he will be back in Colorado. Like you said, they need a face-off man. He is their face-off man. He's really good at what he does, And like we said a lot of times, if you go and look up his face-off percentage, people will be like, oh, he only got, like 50%. That's not really that good. But he does all the other things that we want a face-off man to do, which is play lacrosse. So he's really good at that.
So next one, we got a couple former San Diego Seals, or are they former San Diego Seals? Kyle Rubish, Cam Holding. We have them both going back to San Diego. Veteran pieces. Holding especially is not going to leave San Diego. I highly doubt Kyle Rubish wants to leave San Diego on the note that he left there last year being hurt for so long. So I think both of those guys, especially losing by 1 goal to Buffalo in the first round, I think they got a bad taste in their mouth being that 8th seed, having to go against the number 1 seed, win some more games, and you won't have to do that. I think they both go back to San Diego.
Yeah, agreed. Again, veteran pieces on a very veteran team, but that team has been ready to push for a title since pretty much they came into the league. Every single year they seem to be ready and then kind of fall flat in the playoffs. But once again, next year they will probably seem to be ready to push for playoffs, and you need veteran pieces like both of them in order to do that. So they will be staying.
Next name, we talked about him 2 episodes ago, Adam J. I thought he would have fit perfectly in Buffalo until I read more and more, because he was a former Toronto Rock guy until the Mark Matthews trade that sent him and Zach Mans to Saskatchewan. I haven't signed him back with Saskatchewan after the season they had. I don't see why any player would want to leave Saskatchewan, even with the tough travel to get there and play elsewhere. I think he's going to go back to the Rush and be a big staple piece on the back end there. He's one of the very few UFAs they even have out there.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Vancouver being a destination. I do think the Rush are kind of a secondary destination. Like you said, similar to how Vancouver is doing it, they are building things correctly with the team atmosphere they have, with the coaches they have, the GM they have. Everything they're doing is being built correctly. They just don't have quite as nice of a destination as Vancouver is. But I think if you can't fit on the Vancouver squad and you're a UFA and you want to play out west, I mean, yes, we've already talked about it. San Diego is also a really, really great place to play. But I think the Rush and the way they've built things and how well they just did last season and everything that they've kind of shown within that locker room and within that team is a team that you want to play for. And if you're already there, you're likely to stay there.
So the next are a couple Rochester Nighthawks, and I think this one really comes down to, is Rochester a franchise in this league? And if it is, I think both of these players might come back. Otherwise, I could see them hanging up. Even if Rochester does come back, I could see them hanging up. That's Ian Lord and Dan Coates. Lord is 40. Dan Coates is 38. Coates only played in 8 games last year. Lord did play in 18, and he was the one right on Paul Dawson's tail, who only had 37 blocks, which would have shattered the old record. But yeah, I think Lord still has game to him. It's, does he want to continue to play? Dan Coates, captain of Rochester, does he continue to want to play? I mean, Lord's played in 18 seasons, 267 games. Dan Coates, 13 seasons, 175 games. Do they want to continue to play and put the miles on their bodies, or do they want to hang it up? If they do want to come back, I think it's only Rochester. Maybe Lord can swing elsewhere, but I think Coates for sure is Rochester hanging him up, and Lord, I think, is right on his tail with that situation as well.
Here's a interesting curveball. I also have both of them going back to the Nighthawks, but hypothetically, we'll throw this out to be a little bit different.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I love this idea. I haven't heard the question, but I know exactly how you're going to phrase this.
Yeah, Dawson retires. Lord's available. Used to be
so the younger Paul
massive...
Dawson retires. The older Ian Lord comes in to try to break his record.
Yes, and Lord was a massive part of the Bandits for quite a long time.
That's very true. Yeah,
but the block shots are there. I mean, if Dawson retires and they want that veteran player
There's
to
a hole. There'll be 52
shots,
block shots missing from that lineup.
And you can replace it with 37, possibly up to 52. I don't see it happening. I assume he's going back to Rochester, but it could be an interesting, very, very depth piece for the Bandits if he really wants to stay in the area.
So the next name is Tyson Bell. Played with Halifax last year. Had that 6-game suspension, I think it was. Maybe it was an 8-game. It was one of the 2. With the altercation with the fan. I know a bunch of people, when we tweeted these out, the list of where everybody wanted, nobody wanted him on Buffalo. But I don't think you have to worry about that. I think he goes back to Halifax. It It is interesting, though. He is one of the few UFAs that did not re-sign with Halifax in that first wave. It could still come, but it is of note that he was one of the ones, and Warren Hill is another one that we'll talk about next week, that did not re-sign in that big wave of free agents, or soon-to-be free agents, pending free agents that Halifax re-signed early in July.
Yeah, I think he's pretty cemented in Halifax, unless, like you just said, I mean, it is interesting that he did not sign with that first wave, but I think for the last few years, he's been a pretty big staple on that team. I know the fan altercation, maybe that has something to do with them kind of moving on if they want to. Maybe they just don't want that kind of atmosphere on their team. I mean, I don't honestly, it seems like that is what they want on their team after how they kind of finished that playoff series with the Rush. It seems like that is exactly the atmosphere and style.
Years ago,
and,
jumping the penalty boards. Yeah.
The hard-nosed type of team that they like to be. He seems to fit really well. So we'll see. Like you said, wasn't signed with the original crew that was signed, but maybe he wants to wait for the CBA. Who knows? But I would assume he comes back to Halifax, and I would assume they want him back. But could be an interesting name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that wave of Halifax players that signed before the CBA is very interesting. But
yes.
Maybe they know something we don't. Billy Hostrauser, I think he's going back to the Rock. Again, I think he's a lifer. He's been doing these one-year deals for quite a while now. He's been a UFA for quite a few years. So I think he is destined to be back with the Toronto Rock.
Yep, I think everything Toronto's building. I mean, you have them winning the ship next year, apparently. You are biggest Toronto fan of all time.
I might be back. Took a year off. Took the right year off.
You did. After that, you got very upset with them last season and their 5-game losing streak.
Look at what happened. I was right. I pat myself on the back.
But you're right back on the ship. You what is it? Took the split, looped back around, and there you are with Toronto once again. But yeah, I don't think Ostrauser is going anywhere.
Yeah, I jumped off the cruise ship, spent a few days in Maui, and next cruise ship came on, and I jumped back on. Reese Caley's. Reese Caley's, one of the leadership groups with Calgary. This one is interesting because he can be franchised, but as we'll talk about next week, Tyler Pace can also be franchised. You can't franchise both players. But I do think because he got that letter last year, I think he could be back with Calgary, but he is a player to monitor moving forward because, again, if they can't work out a deal with Tyler Pace, I think that he's going to be franchised. That means Reese Caley's cannot be franchised, and I think he would be a hot name, especially with Vancouver on the market. But I do think he goes back to Calgary regardless of the franchise tag or not.
Yeah, like you said, I think giving him the letter last year meant a lot to him, meant a lot to that team. So I think that was a way to kind of pull him in without having to use the franchise tag.
A year early.
Exactly. It's, hey, here's your letter. Now we don't have to franchise tag you because you're one of the team. Stay with us, please. Yeah, the Roughnecks need players like him, and hopefully for their sake he stays. Well, you said if they can't franchise him, does he want to move on to something else like a possible Vancouver?
Yeah, I know Vancouver can't sign everybody, but they could.
They can try.
This has been a common theme this show, and this is why not? Because they just seem to do it every year. We got John Rannigan and Liam Burns, another couple players that we mentioned from the Swarm that could be interests for the Buffalo Bandits. We both have them going back to Georgia because Georgia re-signs and brings back everybody and just keeps re-hitting the same button. If at first you don't succeed, keep trying and keep doing it again, and that's perfectly fine from a Buffalo Bandits fan. Keep running it back, man, because if it's broken, keep driving it. That's what I just turn up the radio. Stupid team.
Yeah, they will, like you said, likely run it back, make no changes, and end up exactly where they do every single season. But that is not a shot at these two players. It's just a little bit of a shot at how Georgia runs their organization. But Liam Burns, if he's available from New York, so, maybe look into it a little bit, Buffalo or Rochester if they still exist. That is an interesting thing that we don't, no, never mind. We do later. Continue.
Yeah, there's one coming up. Last one that we have going back to their own team, Brett Mitski, captain of Vancouver. Again, he's going back to Vancouver. Not much to talk about there. Should have paired him with Ryan Dilks, but I started pairing these up after we talked about Dilks. So Mitski going back to Vancouver. Not much to talk about there.
Yes.
We're going to work bottom up about in your spreadsheet here. Damon Edwards, former New York Riptide, former Ottawa Blackbird. No, he wasn't because he was a free agent before Ottawa actually officially changed. Actually, no, he as soon as the season ended, whatever. He never played in Ottawa, but I think he was an Ottawa player at one point. He went to Colorado late in last year's offseason, like maybe a week or two before season even began. Had a bit of a rough season. I have him going to the Wings because, again, Wings need players. Damon Edwards signed so late in free agency last year. I don't know how much his services are wanted or needed around the league, but Philly's going to need players. Once again, I'm hammering Philly and I'm hammering Georgia this episode, rightfully so. I've been trash talking you for years, and you haven't done anything, so rightfully so. I have him going to the Wings because they need players.
Yeah, I have him very similar to what I did earlier with the Firewolves. I got it a little bit different down here with some Firewolves mixed in, but the Rochester Nighthawks, if they still exist, and the Albany Firewolves are two teams that I think need help on the back end to project their offenses that are already great. Their goaltending, which neither are very solid. Jameson's solid, and then Hartley, if he stays healthy, has been a very solid goalie. So I think to me, what they need is solid defenders, especially the Nighthawks. They don't need transition players. They have only transition players. They need solid defenders on the back end. I think Damon Edwards is a veteran, solid defender that could raise that defensive group as a whole. They have way too many of the transition style players. They need some lockdown defenders. I think Damon Edwards could bring that to the Nighthawks.
Especially if Lord and Coates leave. Next name, former Philadelphia Wing, maybe. Ryan Wagner, we both have him going to Ottawa. And I think this is a good piece because as good as Ottawa's defense was last year, and as bad as their forward group was, I think it's never bad to add more defenders to this position. I think Ryan Wagner is a very underrated defender in this league, and I think he would fit perfectly with what Ottawa is building on the back end there.
Yeah, pretty much agree. I think, like you said, the Ottawa defense was decent, but they could always use some more stay-at-home defenders. It's always good to have. I mean, more than anything, their offense needs a lot of help, but we will talk about that later. But he's a player they can bring in to boost a little bit of that back end a little bit more, and maybe Higgins doesn't have that kind of little bit of a collapse that he had toward the end of the year.
So we got three names left. We have them going to three different teams each. First name, Mike Manley. This is a player that I think Buffalo signs. And yes, this is the first Georgia Swarm player leaving. He is a police officer in New York. I think that fits perfectly. He's a veteran piece on the back end if Buffalo loses a Paul Dawson. I think he is looking for a championship. I think he's at the tail end of his career. I think he would fit perfectly with what Buffalo has on the back end and would be another solid piece on the defensive core that they have back there and would put them up there with Vancouver as one of the best defensive units in the entire league.
All right, take everything PK just said and switch it over to the Nighthawks, who
you
once
are
again...
giving Nighthawks everybody. Like, how are they going to fit everybody out of their roster, man?
I'm only giving them two.
Yeah, but you're adding him because you got Lord staying there, you got Coates there, now you got Edwards going there.
I don't know what Lord and Coates are going to do, but if Lord and Coates move on, you bring in
That's
Edwards
true.
and Manley,
Yes.
then you're good. You're all set.
I agree.
But yeah, I do like him for the Buffalo as well, but same reasons that you like him for Buffalo, I like him for Rochester, and I would also like him for Buffalo. So I think what he brought, the 17 block shots, 15 caused turnovers, like you said, he's just a solid stay-at-home defender. Lives in New York. We haven't had to do it too often this episode with the location management of a player, but like you said, tail end of his career, might want to play closer to home. It makes more sense. And what's Georgia doing? Go to a title team like the Bandits or be closer to home with Rochester.
Yeah, it just makes too much sense for it not to happen. I want that one to be right. Two names left. Brad Cree. There was a lot of rumors that he could be moved because he could not be franchised with Toronto. And then Toronto won that one game, and they all got their hopes up. And then they lost the rest of their season. I think he goes to the team that was most rumored that he was, rumored to. I think Halifax fits perfectly. Maybe that's why Tyson Bell has not signed, because they're bigger hunter fishing for a Brad Cree. You had Brad Cree back there with a Graham Hossick, with a Colton Armstrong, with a Jake Withers. That defense could be absolutely terrifying, or they could be an absolute mess. So I think he signs with Halifax. I would not be shocked if he goes back to Toronto whatsoever. But, does Toronto be able to... I think a lot of it comes down to, does Nick Rose officially go back to Toronto? We'll talk about that in the next show. If Nick Rose doesn't go to Toronto, I think a lot of what we're talking about here with the Toronto Rock might change. That it really might change it. It really comes down to, does Nick Rose go back to Toronto? Which I fully expect he does, but there's like a 1% chance he doesn't. If he doesn't, I think there's a lot of unknowns going on back to Toronto.
It's almost like another goalie for Buffalo.
We won't mention his name. You don't spook him. Don't you spook that man.
Yeah, similar. I had him going to the Firewolves. I think we have to make some fun moves for this. I know we're trying to make this as realistic as possible, but also it's pretty boring if we just say everybody's going to go right back to where they were. So do I think he's more likely to go back to Toronto? Probably. He's been there for a really long time, and they like him a lot. Why wouldn't you? He's an extremely good defender, but again, Firewolves need some stay-at-home solid defenders. I think he is one that could immediately raise their back end to a whole entire new level because he's that style of player. You put him with Jameson and that Firewolves offense, and I think their team looks completely different, especially if they're healthy from the injuries that they had last year. I think Cree is the style of player that one player alone could make that big of an impact on a team like that to raise them to where they want to be.
You hear that, Brad? He's calling you a coward. He's calling you a chicken. Saying
if you want to
don't
come
have
to
the
Buffalo,
guts to sign
that'd be
elsewhere.
great.
You don't have the guts to sign anywhere else but Toronto, you coward. That's what Phil's saying, not me. We'll move on to the last
Don't
name
fight
here,
me.
and I'll let you go second like you have been because this is going to get a lot of Buffalo Bandits fans excited. Mitch DeSnew. I have him going back to Toronto. I do think that there is an option that he goes back to Philly, that he does go sign with Buffalo, but I think the most likely outcome is he goes back to Toronto so he doesn't have to worry about the border issues with what he does up there with his career. So I have him going back to Toronto. Again, if the 1% chance happens and Nick Rose for some reason signs back with Calgary or signs with Halifax or some other situation that he doesn't go back to Toronto, I do not think Mitch DeSnew goes back to the Rock. I think he's big time title hunting in his back end of his career. He is, how old is this man, Phil? Looking it up now. He's 33, going into 33 season. Played nine seasons. He's on the tail end. I'm not saying he's over the hill or hurt, but
He's real good.
he's right on that peak, right on the peak. So I think he goes back to Toronto pending the almost for sure thing that Nick Rose happens. But make everybody, all the Buffalo Bandits fans happy here, and I'll just sit back and listen as we wrap up this episode.
Yeah, I want him back in Buffalo like he was.
I do too, but I don't think it's
years
going to happen.
ago. I think if Vince comes back, I could see him with Toronto being in the middle of a transition. I know you have them, again, winning the title in year one with 19 rookies on the team, but if he wants to take 1 year off from Toronto, I think the big thing with this, like, a lot of it was we heard Priolo say that everybody was talking to Dietrich like, hey, get DeSnew here. Like, whatever. We heard that Toronto's having a fire sale, whatever you can do, get him here. But the whole thing was Toronto would never release DeSnew to the Bandits. That was absolutely never going to happen. But now that he has not only is he away from Toronto, but he's been with a different team. So now he's slightly separated from Toronto where he's seen kind of what else is out there. I'm not saying that he doesn't like Toronto. I'm sure he still wants to go back. But it's not like it's an off season where he played the whole season with the Rock. They were close. They were in playoffs and they just missed another title or something. He wants to immediately go back. Like, this to me is like the one time you might be able to get Mitch DeSnew because he is slightly removed from Toronto. He's played for a different team. He isn't just immediately re-signing with that team. He's been with somebody else. So to me, this could be the one time where Mitch DeSnew just signs a 1 year deal with Buffalo. Especially, again, this all depends. Same with the Rock and Rose. It depends on with the Bandits and Vince. If Vince comes back, I could see him saying, let me go to Buffalo for 1 year. Let me try to win a title. If Mitch DeSnew comes to Buffalo, my goodness, you better win a title because that would be ridiculous. But I think that would be the, like, let me go get a title under my belt. Let me go back to Buffalo one time with Matt Vince, have an incredible season, and then after that, sign a longer-term deal with the Toronto Rock to finish your career out. I could see, like, to me, this is the pretty much one and only time you have a shot at honestly possibly getting Mitch Snew. Realistically, does he go back to the Rock? Probably, but is there even like the slight chance that the Bandits could get him? I would say yes. And again, if there is ever a time, I think this is your one shot to try to pull a Mitch Snew in.
Yeah, whenever free agency opens, whether that's August 1st or whenever it is.
September 23rd.
There is no chance that Steve Duke does not have Mitch Snew's number and is not going to be calling it 9 million times a day once free agency opens. I think he's going to do his darndest to try to convince Mitch Snew to come back to Buffalo.
3 championship trophies to his house.
Because they did not want to trade him. They did it because it was COVID and the border issues with his schooling and him becoming a doctor. That was the main reason why he did get traded to Toronto. This schooling's done. Border's open. Come back home. Like, I could definitely
1
see...
year. Just give me a one and done.
I could definitely see that working. I think there's definitely going to be a very big push. I think all players are going to be in communication with him to try to get him back. I don't think there's any question that they're going to do whatever they can do to bring him back. I just don't know if it's going to be enough because of how convenient it is to play with Toronto. So I think with Toronto, with him living in Canada, I think that gives the push that Toronto would need to get him signed. But again, I would not be completely shocked if he does sign with Buffalo. I just do not expect it. But again, we'll be back next week. Forwards and goaltenders. This has been the defenders and transition players. Again, it might seem boring, but tell NLL to have their players sign elsewhere, expand the salary pool for all these players and so on and so forth till they make more money and there's more money up for grabs in free agency. A lot of these players are just going to go back to what's very convenient because they have outside lives outside of the NLL, and that's why majority of these players went back to their team. Sorry it's so boring, but we had 9 players switch. There was 18 last year.
We're halfway to last year.
We're halfway to last year's number. And again, there were some other defenders out there. I'll just run through the names real quick. John Lintz, Jake Sanders, Jake Darlison, Keegan Bell. You got Sheldon Burns. What other names are out here? Tor Reinhold, if he's back in the league. That's about all the ones worth naming. That's why we didn't really throw more names in the pool there. But that wraps up this one. Let us know where you think... Although we put it out earlier and a lot of people were just like, I don't want this player. I don't want this player. Maybe I'll have Mitch Snew back. Get a little bit more creative out there. We're trying to generate some content in this offseason that's very boring with the NLL because they're not telling us anything but trading cards. So that will wrap up this episode. Phillium. Anything else to add to this one before we shut it down and get ready for the forwards and defenders next week and watch some training camp videos and get all hyped up for the Buffalo Bills season?
No, that sounds good. And fantasy football around the corner. Start mocking now.
I'm not ready whatsoever. So thank you all for listening to this episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Once again, we'll be back next week. Bills training camp underway, and forwards and goaltenders. You will not want to miss that one. Maybe free agency will open next Friday. Probably not, though. Who knows what's going on with CBA in Rochester? Even the league doesn't know. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room and... that's it for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Can't end soon enough because I am stumbling through everything. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Man, I am really screwing this up. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Check out our store and our link trees on our social media sites or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts for a second time and leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.